just finished reading my last Ellie Hazelwood book, and now that I have gone through all 16 pieces that she's ever written, I think I have a pretty definitive ranking. So in this video, we're gonna summarize each one of her books, explain what I did or did not like about them, and rank them all. Make sure I felt like my ranking was actually accurate to my feelings. I went back and judged every book on a few different elements. The first is, what is the main scientific or paranormal lore? Basically, what is it about? How interesting is it? And how in-depth they got into it. The second is very specific to an Ellie Hazelwood book, and it's how stubborn and annoying is the female main character, and is that justifiable by what they've been through? Kind of on the same topic, how realistic was the main character's background or trauma? Next is something else kind of specific to Ellie Hazelwood books, and it's how amazing is the main male character, and how much am I upset that a person like that doesn't exist in real life. The next is, what is the general trope of the romance? How their relationship comes about and how it progresses over time. The next is how much chemistry the characters actually had. The next is how good the smut was. The next is the main intensity, drama, or climax of the main scientific or paranormal lore. And then lastly is just personal bias, because some of these I just like because I like them, because they're special for me. But before we get too into that, hello beautiful people of the internet, my name is Jaden. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am on a journey to take back my life, to do a lot of things that make me happy, and to take control of it again. With that comes a lot of leaning into my hobbies, and one of my hobbies that I've been enjoying a lot lately is reading, and I've been reading a lot of Ellie Hazelwood books. So this was something I've been anticipating for a while. It's been something I've been hoping to accomplish. By that I mean reading all of her books, and now that I'm here, I could not be more excited, and I could not be more satisfied with my ranking. I feel like it is incredibly true to me. Might not be true to everyone, but it's true to me. And with that being said, I also want to put in a little disclaimer to say that this is by no means slandering Ellie Hazelwood, slandering any of her books. I think she's an amazing writer. I think she has some really good plot lines, some really good characters, some really good books as a whole. I quite honestly don't think any of the books that she has written are bad. There are 2 on this entire list of 16 that were not for me, and I didn't really enjoy them, but I did not hate them, and I also don't think that the book was necessarily bad. They were just not for my personal taste, and I absolutely know and believe that there are people who love those books, and I'm very glad for you. It just wasn't for me, so I hope that you guys can, not see my opinion as objective. It's completely subjective, and again, there's no slander, there's no hate. I clearly love Ellie Hazelwood enough to read all of her books, so hopefully no one's, mad at me for potentially rating something that they loved a lot lower than them. Maybe the opposite or anything like that. Just please don't take it personally, but I'm definitely open to other views and other interpretations, and I would love to hear it. So let's talk about it. So I'm not going to be doing this in a specific order. I'm just kind of going to be talking about each book and how I felt about them, and then I'll tell you where it's at in the list. I am kind of grouping it first by her main STEM and real life full-length novels. So we're gonna start with The Love Hypothesis, the one that I think most people know about. So the main theme of the STEM part here was pancreatic cancer research in an academic setting, which I will say I don't feel like they dove into the details of that as much as some of the other ones. And that kind of research and that kind of scientific stuff was not as interesting to me lore-wise. Olive's background made perfect sense for her storyline and her romance. I feel like Ellie Hazelwood's books are kind of known for their really stubborn, really traumatized, non-committal female main characters, but I feel like Olive's was pretty tame in comparison to some of the other ones. She still had her trauma, don't get me wrong. I feel like it was like a healthy amount, but I feel like she was relatively normal. Therefore, like the pushback and the back and forth wasn't very annoying. Adam was a very sweet, but overall pretty tame male main character. Basically, like, he didn't really do anything for me. I thought that the chemistry was there and the relationship was sweet. It does start off as a fake dating trope, which I do enjoy, but overall it just felt simple. Like, I didn't have strong feelings either way for it. It was just like a nice, simple, sweet palate cleanser. Even like the spicy scenes didn't really stand out to me. I do vaguely remember a scene, but like I don't remember it being too crazy. I also can't remember a lot about it, so maybe I'm just remembering wrong. I will say you'll see this in like a lot of the other summaries I have of each each book, but I think it matters what stands out to me. And what did stand out to me in this one was like the STEM drama, like the big ordeal that happened. That was memorable for me. Like, I don't think anything about the romance was standing out, but the STEM drama was something that like did surprise me a little bit, like did have my heart racing. So I really did like that. It's probably like top 2, top 3 for me on the drama of the science part. So for that, I'm gonna say the best part of this book was easily like the climax of the science world, like the stuff outside of the romance. The worst part of it for me was just how light and vanilla it was. I ended up rating this 11 out of 16. I don't know if it was just overhyped, but again, I didn't dislike it. I actually liked it quite a bit. I just think a lot more of her books stood out to me. Next, we're going to talk about love theoretically. The main theme of the STEM world in this one was theoretic physics versus experimental physics. Also, again, in the academic world, there is basically a division between those two, and the romance is kind of enemies to lovers, but more like professional rivals. We get closer due to forced proximity, but also I guess it's enemies to lovers because they know each other outside of the academic setting. So there's both. The plot line here was so great. It was so funny. It was so unique to me. Basically, Elsie, the female main character, works with an app who lets her be a professional fake girlfriend for people who need it for whatever reason. Her main client has an older brother who is really annoying but ends up being the love interest. Jack is my favorite of all of Ali Hazelwood's male main characters. He is very much the type to call a girl out on her bullshit, and I just love that. It's my favorite kind of guy. And it's really good in this book because Elsie is a chameleon and she's a people pleaser, and she changes her personality to make other people like her, but Jack sees right through it. He always knows when she's faking it, and he always calls her out on it. He can see the real her behind the mask, and I don't know. I think he's really unrealistic. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but like people cannot be that perceptive. There's like no way to me, but I love it. I just love it. I don't really remember the details of the smut, but I remember it being good. The STEM drama in here is also like very heavily tied to the romantic plot, and I also thought like the science plot was really fun, like the whole rivalry between the theorist and the experimentalist. I just think everything in this book was really well done. The best part of the book was Jack. Just leaving it at that. The worst part of the book, I genuinely could not think of one. Like, I tried and I just could not think of one. I know with me saying it doesn't have any flaws, it doesn't make sense for me to put it lower than other books that I've found flaws in, but it was just my bias. I ranked this at 3. It is still very much top 3, very easily. Next is Love on the Brain, and I will say I may have recency bias because I literally finished this book today and I loved it. The STEM focus for this one was on neuroscience and NASA engineering. I love how in-depth this got with the actual science. Like, that is the kind of immersion that I want with the STEM lore. And yeah, this book like really solidified for me that being able to learn in depth what the characters are studying or what they're working on is such an interesting and important part for me, and it does a lot. Like, that really deeply affects how much I'm gonna like the book. So yeah, the fact that they went so in depth on the science in the project that they were working on was a huge pro for me. Now, B as a female main character can definitely be frustrating at times, but she has a lot of justifiable trauma. And kind of like I said earlier, that's also a big part for me, is that like the main character can be as annoying as they want as long as they have a reason to back it up. Like, basically have the background to make it make sense. Like, don't have someone be so guarded and so reserved and so back and forth and non-committal just because that's like how they are as a person. Like, have them have something that made them that way. And B definitely has that, but honestly, she wasn't very annoying to me. I actually thought she was up there with some of my other favorites. She was like really funny and entertaining. Sometimes the characters are cringe. She had a little bit of cringe. Everyone has a little bit of cringe, but she was overall like very likable. I also thought Levi was pretty likable. He is not like a Jack or an Eli for me. I'm sorry, but I did like him. He also had a lot of his own flaws, which I thought were really well interpreted and put pretty heavily into the storyline too. Like, I think when I said what my factors were, I basically implied the female characters are always annoying and the male main characters are like always perfect. And I do feel like she does that a lot. Like, the men are always good communicators, like very perceptive, very interested, and they pursue, and the girls just like run away and push and deny and like just do all the toxic stuff. Like, the girls are the toxic ones in these books. But I feel like Levi had a good amount of like his own shit, and I really appreciated that. I really appreciate that like both the characters had their own things they had to work through. The only thing that I felt like did frustrate me in this one was the miscommunication trope and how long it took them to clear up some kind of basic things. I don't hate miscommunication trope. I actually really like it, but there's a specific way that it has to be done for it not to be annoying to some degree. This one, I'll admit, it was slightly annoying, but it also all made sense. So I'm a little torn. I will also say some of the coincidences of things that they just had in common were like a little too eye-rolly for me. Like, they just so happen to have everything in common. Like, everything that got brought up, it was like, I do that too, or I like that too, or I feel that way too. And we're really supposed to believe that they hate each other at any point? Like, come on. But with that, going into the chemistry, I thought their chemistry was amazing. It was just one of those couples who, like, clearly they are meant for each other, obviously because it's written that way and like you can tell who the love interest is, but like basically I'm saying if they existed in real life, they would be for each other, you know? Does that make sense? I don't know. They just fit from the beginning. They just always made sense. Like I said, the trope was miscommunication and like a little bit of enemies to lovers-ish, which is pretty right up my alley. The spice was also pretty spicy. One of my favorites out of all of her books so far. But I will say, the selling point here was the STEM climax. This one had a twist that truly made me like gasp and like panic. It quite literally blew my mind. So if I had to pick the best part of the book, it would definitely be the STEM lore and the drama and the climax. The thing that I didn't like so much was definitely like the little miscommunication and the coincidences. But overall, the blend of everything was done perfectly. Like, it had some of the best of every element to me. I ended up ranking this one as my number 2. Again, maybe it was recency bias, but I loved it. Next, moving into Deep End. The theme of this one wasn't really STEM based. It was college based competitive swimming and diving. Basically, Scarlett, the female main character, was a diver, and Lucas, the male main character, was a swimmer. I'm just gonna say right now, this one did not do a whole lot for me. It is really sports heavy, and I did like when they talked about the diving and the swimming, but I will say that the main selling point is the BDSM kink dynamic. Like, yes, it goes very into the sports because it goes a lot into like the sports psychology and how loss of control and burnout and perfectionism kind of translates into BDSM relationships. So it kind of drives that theme as well. There is a lot of depth to this book, and I will say I loved how deep they got with talking about it and with acting upon it. This is something I feel like we need a lot more of in books, especially books that are smutty. If it was based on that alone, it would be 5 stars. For me though, the thing I just didn't get there was that romantic chemistry. Both Scarlett and Lucas make sense to me, but the chemistry didn't feel like all there. Like, I get it, but I wasn't feeling it. Sexually, it was great. Romantically, it was just, I don't know, like they were sweet, but it just didn't feel like they fit, like in my mind. The trope was friends to benefits turned lovers, and I don't have an issue with that at all. But in my mind, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if the relationship was purely sexual, because they just didn't fit as a couple in my mind. And even like the stakes of the main plot line didn't feel as high to me as it probably should have, honestly. So I don't know, it just wasn't my book. I will just say that. It just wasn't for me. Again, if you just took the book as like a conversation on kink dynamics, 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, I love it. Also, it's weird because I've heard people say that this book wasn't spicy enough, and I'm like, were we reading the same book? Because it definitely was to me. Like, I understand wanting more, especially of that kind of smut and like those kinds of conversations, but to me it was the perfect amount. It also was a lot more than I expected, so I was very happy with that part of it. Like, for me, that was the best part of the book, the smut and the BDSM dynamics. And yeah, I think the worst part was romantic chemistry for me. I rank this number 14. The next one is Not in Love. So the STEM theme of this one is a biotech startup based on increasing the shelf life of food and basically the corporate world of science. I'm extremely biased towards this book and I feel a little defensive about it because I've seen it pretty consistently ranked lower for a lot of people. I'm gonna say something very controversial here. I feel that Deep End walked so that Not in Love could run. It's not that it's like heavily kink or BDSM based, but it's pretty spicy and it has like such a deeper element there, which I love. I feel like there's just a lot more emotional vulnerability and some more serious conversations. I think this one also just does a lot for me because I love Eli as a main male character and maybe Lucas just wasn't like the one for me either, but I don't know. I also loved Rue. Rue might be my favorite female main character. I feel like I understand her. I love her. I want to protect her. I've seen quite a bit of people say that they don't resonate with Rue. I absolutely disagree. I definitely do resonate with her. The romance trope is forbidden romance because they are corporate rivals. I don't really love this trope. This usually annoys me more than other ones, not because of the corporate rivals, but just because they're not allowed to be together. But there's also kind of a degree of friends with benefits to lovers that I also think is made stronger by the forbidden romance plotline. And I think this again was giving me the feeling I was missing in Deep End, where I want the spicy scenes to build the romantic relationship and open them up and make them closer. I didn't want to feel like they were made for each other from the get-go. This one had kind of a grow into each other feeling, and I absolutely loved that. The best part of this book was all around the chemistry for me, like every part of it. And the worst part of the book was I didn't find like the scientific part or the corporate drama to be overly interesting. It wasn't bad, it just like didn't capture me like some of the other ones. I ranked that one at number 1. Going into Problematic Summer Romance, a wild switch from Not in Love. Because Problematic Summer Romance was a spin-off of Not in Love, it didn't really have a heavy scientific theme. It was more focused on just the relationship since it was just based around the characters from Not in Love, like the side characters. Also, because it was a spin-off, I thought I would love it and I just did not. I can't talk about this one for very long because it's the only one of her full-length novels that I just didn't like to pretty much any degree. I don't like the characters. Mostly I don't like Connor. I just found him insufferable. But Maya really annoyed me too. This trope is an age gap relationship, which has also been my least favorite trope so far. But to me, it was the way it was done that was just super weird and uncomfortable. I think it would be less weird if they didn't argue about it like the whole time, because Maya just constantly nags and like whines and complains, and it almost feels like a teenager going and like complaining to an older brother or a dad or some kind of just like older relative, and that just makes the age gap situation feel so much worse because it feels like he's lecturing her on why they can't be together and she's just whining. So because of that, the spice also just made me uncomfortable. It just wasn't my fantasy. I'll say that. Like, there's a level of like domestic kink and a certain word that I don't think I should say out loud on YouTube. And yeah, it's just not my thing. I completely understand if it's your thing, but I think it was so outside of my realm of my interest that I just couldn't be into any of it. I couldn't even be open to it. So I'm sorry if you love this book. Like I said, if you did, I love that for you, but it was just more uncomfortable for me than anything else. I do think the best part of this book was the setting and the immersion. I loved where they were and how the whole place was described. But yeah, the worst part of the book were the characters and the trope. I ranked this one 15. Now we're gonna go into shorter novellas and also the one full audiobook that she has. We are splitting Loathe to Love You into all 3 parts. So if you're wondering why it's 16 books or pieces of writing, that's why. So Loathe to Love You was actually the second Ellie Hazelwood book that I ever read, second to Bride. Crazy switch. Mind you, I did not know this was made up of 3 novellas, so that was a surprise to me, but I did feel like splitting that up into all 3 because they all had pretty different vibes to me. So first we're going to talk about Under One Roof. So in Under One Roof, the STEM part is based on environmental engineering. 2 sides of it, kind of like in Love theoretically. It's also forced proximity, but the basis is also slightly corporate rivals, being that the book book's name is Loathe to Love You. It's like all three of these are themes of the characters hating each other but having to be close to each other. So basically their rivalry is like a big misunderstanding, and they slowly figure it out because they are living in the same shared space that they both inherited from a mutual person in their lives. It's cute. It's really simple. I will say I like this couple a lot. I also really like the characters. The smut was also pretty good, so it definitely set a good bar, being like my first of the non-paranormal books as like a neutral for me. Like, it didn't blow my mind, but it was good. I rated this one at 8. Next is Loathe to Love You, Stuck With You. I'm gonna be so real, I could not remember this pretty much at all. No matter how many summaries I read, like, I can vaguely remember it, but I don't really remember it. It's almost like I never read it, and I know I did, but based on the little bit that I do remember, I can definitely say that I don't hate it, because if I did hate it, I would remember it. That would have stuck out to me, but I can also tell you I didn't adore it. I'm not even gonna try to give it a best part and a worst part of the book. I'm just gonna say I put this at 13. Then lastly, we're gonna talk about Loathe to Love You Below Zero, which is the last of the 3 novellas in Loathe to Love You. So this one had a lot clearer of a distinction in my mind because I really liked what the science part was about. It didn't go in depth as some of the other ones, but it was still really interesting. Hannah is a NASA aerospace engineer who goes on a really dangerous mission to the Arctic. It's such a cool idea and it's such high stakes that this is probably the first one that made me really interested in the science part of Allie's books. Again, we have Hannah and the male main character Ian in forced proximity due to Ian rescuing her during a mission. The thing that will always stand out about this book for me was the smut, because there was one specific line where a specific body part was compared to something specific in space. Actually, I think that happened a couple times, but it genuinely made me laugh out loud and I could not recover. Like, like I still haven't forgotten about it, and it's been like 2 years. I just haven't been able to get over it. I think when you're an author that writes a lot of smut, especially experimental and like very varied smut, you're gonna have people who are turned off by specific things because like that's very personal to people. And not everyone likes the same thing in spicy scenes, and that kind of dirty talk was something like I just did not like at all. The romance was super cute and I did like the characters, but because the smut and the STEM stuff were the only things that like stood out in my mind, they played a much bigger part in my ranking. So the best part of the book was definitely the setting and the scientific background. The worst part was that one smut scene, that part in specific. I ranked this number 10. Next, we're going to talk about Two Can Play, and I have been really surprised by how low a lot of people have put this. Maybe it's because I love video games and the whole book is basically based around video game development, but I just thought it was a really cute plot line. Basically, we do another Rivals to Lovers where 2 video game developing companies come together to make a game, and each of the main characters are on a different side of the rival companies. Viola? Is that really her name? That sounds weird, but she definitely aggravated me, and Jessie didn't really stand out as like one of my favorite characters either, but I didn't necessarily dislike them, and I think I liked the idea and the plot lines so much that I was invested. They also do this like big team building mountain retreat where they get snowed in, and I love a snowed in concept. One of my favorites. I literally fall for it every time. It doesn't matter how many times I read it. And one more thing, I will say there was a miscommunication trope here, but I thought it was really well done. Like, I definitely thought this is the kind of miscommunication trope that is done well. It made sense. It was like a perfect explanation and I wasn't mad about it. I think when you do it right, it sometimes feels like a sudden breath of fresh air after you've been like holding your breath for so long. When it's not done right, it just feels like you never really get that relief. But this one was done well. I really liked it. Again, it didn't blow me away, but I liked it a lot. Best part of this book was the theme. Overall theme. Worst part of the book was I felt like the characters could be like a little bit more interesting, a little bit better. I rated this number 9. Next is Check and Mate, which was 100% my favorite novella, and it was really close to even being higher than where it's at. The STEM focus is chess, and that was heavily reflected throughout the book. Like, it is a core part of it. I don't understand nor really care about chess in any way, but I was so into it for the sake of this book. The book made the idea of chess super interesting interesting and super captivating to me. The female main character, Mallory, has gone through so much. Every single person in her life, quite literally, was terrible to her. So I deeply understand every bit of her that is frustrating. So while she does make you want to scream sometimes at how lowly she thinks of herself and how much she allows other people to treat her like crap, you can't really blame her. Nolan, on the other hand, the male main character, he's pretty cool. He's unhinged about Mallory, but not in an over-the-top way, like not in an obsessive and crazy way compared to how some of the other characters have been. He just like thinks she's a genius and respects her a lot and just likes her. Their romance is a rivals to lovers. It's similar to Love on the Brain, where only the girl really thinks that they're rivals and the guy is just like, we're not. So it's kind of miscommunication in that sense. The spice levels in this are extremely mild, pretty closed door. But I thought all the stuff about chess, Mallory's job, about her family, and the wholesome romance was good enough to keep me very entertained without needing any spice. The drama and the climax in this felt very Gen Z, but in the best way. I can definitely see this all going down in real life pretty easily. So yeah, I feel like I don't have the best way to explain why I like this one so much, but I just did. The best part of this book was the background trauma and how it's all revealed throughout the book, and also just the chess stuff. The worst part of this book was Mallory's family. They were insufferable and I did not want to read about them at all. They drove me insane. I rated this number 5. Next is Cruel Winter with You, and I will say when I first read this one, it was 5 stars for me, but the more I've had time apart from it, the less it has had the same impact on my feelings. This story is set around Christmas time, which is when I read it. So it's like the perfect setting and just perfect vibe. It's the same concept that I just mentioned I loved, which is a snowed in concept. This time though, it's just with the two main characters who grew up knowing each other, then they fell out and they're basically speaking for the first time in years. I loved the way the story was written. I loved the vibes. I loved the setting. And I thought the romance was really cute. This trope is a second chance romance. There's really nothing else going on besides the like unveiling of their friendship and how they got closer over the years, and then in the present them just hanging out and kind of talking through things. I think what kind of ended up making me pull back a little bit is that Mark, the male main character, is a little too over the top. Like how I just said that sometimes Allie Hazelwood's male main characters are over the top. This guy was mostly who I was talking about. This guy pined for too many years and was like a little bit too obsessive for my liking. It just felt intense, I guess, and kind of unrealistic. Jamie was one of those characters who was like a little bit reserved and stubborn, but she didn't really have the reasoning for it, at least from what I can remember. Like I don't think that a lot of stuff went down for her to be the way she was. I don't know. I don't remember. But also the miscommunication trope was like kind of stupid. It was a very small, silly thing that could have very easily been resolved. So it was just one of those things that had me rolling my eyes a bit. But overall, I really like this one, especially for the season, but I cannot justify putting it among a lot of the other really, really great ones that she's written. The best part of the book was the setting. The worst part was the miscommunication and the longing. I ranked that one at number 6. Next, we're gonna talk about Hot for Slayer. Honestly, I wish we wouldn't talk about this one. This, along Problematic Summer Romance, is the only one that I just do not like at all, which sucks because the concept is so good and I loved it. Basically, it's a vampire and a vampire slayer romance. So, enemies to lovers, not that anyone is surprised here. Again, the plot is there. Would definitely be interested in reading other books with this plot, but unfortunately, I just didn't like the characters. I didn't like the chemistry. I did read this around Halloween to fit the mood, and it's a part of a collection with several different authors called the Scared Sexy Collection. I didn't find it scary, and I know it wasn't supposed to be like really scary, but it was just like silly and funny, and I don't know, just light. It didn't feel like what I was looking for from this theme. Like maybe some of it was meant to be intense, but I didn't care. I wasn't invested. This was the only one I came close to DNFing. It just like literally did not have me interested at all. So the best part of this book was the plot, like the idea, and then the worst part was like everything else. to be honest. This one probably comes as no surprise, was number 16. Next is Bound, and out of all the books on this list, this was the one I was most confused about. Like, I literally couldn't tell you if I liked it or not, and I haven't seen anyone else talk about it, so I can't even compare thoughts. It's very similar to how I felt about Hot for Slayer, where I love the plot line. It was very cool. It featured paranormal creatures that I've never heard of before. I feel like learning about like a new species or a made-up species is always really interesting. I also thought the setup was like just sick. Basically, Veronica, the female main character, or Vera, I guess is what they call her, she is a grad student who starts doing forgeries of historical books to make some money. She gets kidnapped. I guess let's be real. She gets kidnapped by a man who wants her to do a forgery for him, and that close proximity means that they end up learning a lot about each other, and she ends up discovering a lot of his world. I think my main gripe with this is, first of all, the fact that he kidnapped her, and like we're just supposed to get over that. Second of all, I don't usually love our paranormal male main characters. I don't know why. They're just all like so gruff and like big and scary and tough and mean, kind of. That's just not my style. I didn't think that they didn't have chemistry, but I also didn't feel like they did. And like I didn't like any of the characters, but I also didn't dislike any of them. So when I finished, I determined that this was the most meh I could ever feel about a book. Nothing against it, I just didn't have anything for it either. The best part of the book was like the new creatures and learning about a new species. Worst part of the book was the characters and the chemistry. I ranked that one 12. Now we're gonna go into the 2 full-length paranormal novels. So first is Bride. As I said earlier, Bride was the first Ali Hazelwood book I read at all, which was a crazy start. Bride is an arranged marriage trope where Misery, the female main character, is used as kind of a peace offering from the vampires to the werewolves so that they don't fight. She's what they call the collateral. This trope also has a mate theme, like many fantasy paranormal romances have, and there's a lot that goes into that. I liked Misery. I thought she was a really interesting female lead. Again, I think it was more so the lack of interest in Lo, the male main character, that made me not care as much. But I also don't remember a lot about this book, to be quite honest. The vampire and werewolf politics did not have me as hooked as I would have liked, but the smut, I was hanging on to every word in all of the smut scenes. Like, I don't usually get flustered from reading spicy scenes, but this one definitely had me blushing. When I think back on this book, that is like 95% of what I remember about it. Don't ask me anything else. I enjoyed this one, but the lack of interest in like anything else outside of the smut made me question how much I did appreciate the entirety of this book. But then again, this was my first Ali Hazelwood book, and I read this over 2 years ago. And in that span of time, like literally in the 5 years before that, I had not read like any other books except some of Sarah J Maas's stuff. That was when I was getting back into reading. So I'm sure I skimmed around because I was just like dipping my toes back into the water. I definitely think I'll go back and reread this one day because I did say I liked it a lot at the time, but I can't remember enough to justify it. It'll always have a special place in my heart, but I'm unsure about my ranking and where it stands today. The best part of the book was definitely the smut, easily, and the worst part to me was the paranormal politics. I just didn't care about it that much. I ranked this one number 7. Lastly, we have Mate. So Mate is the sequel to Bride, and it's Ali's most recent published novel. This one was good for me. I thought it was a lot better than Bride, but that could also be because I've become a much more attentive reader. Regardless, I thought the writing quality in this was just top tier. For this one, it's hard to explain the trope. It's like a rescue romance, if that's a thing. I really like Serena as a main character. She was kidnapped, so she's pretty traumatized. There's a war going on. It's absolute chaos, and her body is changing a lot because she is a werewolf human hybrid. It's extremely interesting. I actually cared a lot about the politics in this one. Still not as much as the romance, but I still liked every element of it. Again, going to Cohen, the male main character, I just didn't feel very strongly about him. I think I liked him more than the other paranormal leads, but I still just didn't really care. The romance and the smut were really good though. I feel like her spice just keeps getting better with every book she writes. You would think for a book that I gave 5 stars, I would be able to go into more details on this one, but these paranormal books are just flooded with lore, and I really don't know how to go too deep into my feelings without giving too many spoilers. I think I like this one a lot because there's nothing I really would have changed. It maybe didn't hit as hard as some of the other ones did, but there's just no question in my mind the entire time I read it that it was going to be 5 stars. The best part about this was the lore. The worst part, I don't really know if I had to pick something. I would feel like it would be like Cohen could be a little bit more straightforward and honest and not so like reserved and weird. So there we have it. This right here is my final ranking. I feel like I said controversial stuff. I feel like things are gonna be taken the wrong way. I'm stressed. I mean, no harm. And just to spread a little love at the end of a video that may come across a little negative, I'm gonna give a few top 3 rankings in a few different categories. So my favorite female main characters, number 1 was Rue, number 2 was Bee, and number 3 was Hannah or maybe Serena. I can't pick. My favorite male main characters were, if you can guess, number 1 Jack, number 2 Eli, and number 3 Nolan. The best couples for me, number 1 were Eli and Rue, number 2 Jack and Elsie, and number 3 Nolan and Mallory. For the best lore, I would say number 1 was Love on the Brain, number 2 was Love Theoretically, and number 3 was Check and Mate. For the best spice, number 1 is Bride, number 2 is Deep End, and number 3 is Not in Love. Honorable mention Love on the Brain because we cannot let go of that one. So there we have it. I hope you guys see my side and hopefully you're not wanting to come at me with pitchforks. Again, I love Allie's books so much. I think there's something special about them, and I know that like if I'm looking for a specific feeling, I can always go to one of her books and get that from her. I'm excited to see what she comes out with next. As far as I know, haven't seen any news of a future publication, but I need something new. I need a fresh book by her. It would heal me, but I think that's all I have to say for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did like this one, be sure to leave a like and a comment, and if you're feeling generous, you could even subscribe. I do hope to see you guys all in the next video, but if not, bye-bye.